Welcome back, Truth Seeker. Thursday, February 14th, 2019. Starting this broadcast early today because it's Valentine's Day. I imagine a lot of you will have plans this evening. So we'll get it done before the evening time comes around. And a number of big headlines today. Donald Trump planning to declare a national emergency over the border and getting the wall built. It's the 45th day of the year, number 45. We've been talking about 45 in the wall since November 9, 2016, when he was announced as the 45th president-elect, the anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. William Barr was officially confirmed as the Attorney General today, a most perfect day, and we'll get to why. Amazon officially canceled their plans for New York by the numbers. That's ahead. More R. Kelly shaming. Today, a 42-minute video discovered, supposedly, of him having sex with a 14-year-old, which reminds of him and Aaliyah. Supposedly, they got together when Aaliyah was 14. Special study about Roundup today. Supposedly, it increases cancer by 41%. We'll get to that. That's the Monsanto product. A WWE wrestler arrested by the numbers. The 1-year anniversary of the Parkland shooting. More vaccination-related programming in the news. Lyndon LaRouche died on a very fitting date. Tom Brady's wife, Giselle, is now known as the Good Witch. This became a conversation piece last night on my radio show. I want to show you a little bit more about this. And just some review in case you missed yesterday's videos about the Mars rover, the mission officially being over. Also, the 911 tapes being released of the Tallahassee hot yoga shooting. And another rapper convicted of murder. So we'll review those stories at the end. Also have a new vocabulary word that I learned from a caller last night. So we'll cover all that. But first, we'll begin with this day in history, Valentine's Day, February 14th. In case you didn't know, in the septenary cipher, Valentine's Day sums to 45, like the 45th day of the year. Again, that's not one of our base ciphers, but very much a relevant cipher. The highlight of this day from Cleveland.com, the website I typically use to get this day in history, they used the shooting from last year, the latest Valentine's Day massacre, coming on the 89-year anniversary of the Chicago Valentine's Day massacre. This was their highlight. Just want to go over 4 things that everybody should remember from this shooting. These are my 4 bullet points to take away from the Stoneman Douglas shooting. This was the image the media used numerous times as proof of the shooting. A laptop with 3 white dots on the screen. Supposedly those are 3 bullet holes through the laptop. I'll let you be the judge if that looks real. Another image that was put out, but not as often, was this. This was supposedly one of the deceased. You can tell that whatever this is has no arms, and the entire thing is all black. It looks like one of those plastic dummies that you use in CPR class. So that's the evidence of the shooting that the media put out. Another standout detail was that they said the majority of students killed were killed in room 1214, like how the Sandy Hook school shooting date was December 14th, 1214. But the majority of students shot last year on this day in room 1214, and they said this was Holocaust remembrance class. With regards to the Holocaust, David Hogg, who became front and center, he put out the book Never Again, which is the motto of the Holocaust, Never Again. And David Hogg, what's interesting about his birthday is it's April 12th, the 102nd day of the year. The word Valentine has Gematria of 102, number that was well coded in the shooting. The release of his book was announced on the 108th day of the year, like how Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, the school who it's named after, how she lived to be 108 years old. So, and then the other thing to really take away was what I call the 612 thing, and it was Derek who first discovered this, or built on it in a big way. From the Dune Blaine massacre, which was related to the Sandy Hook school shooting, Dune Blaine got gun rights taken away in the UK. It was a school shooting where first graders were targeted, just like at Sandy Hook. From the Dune Blaine massacre to Sandy Hook was 6,120 days. The key digit 612. Dune Blaine massacre in Jewish gematria equals 612. Columbine High School, 612, a school shooting that had consequences for all schools in the nation. I was in high school when this happened. At our high school, we had an assembly and a new policy that we all had to wear name badges at all times on campus after Columbine. The Orlando shooting was June 12th, 2016, June 12th, 612. And then the motto out of it was Orlando Strong, which was also 612. And then from the Orlando shooting at the Pulse nightclub to the Valentine's Day shooting at Stoneman Douglas was 612 days later. And Pulse nightclub, Valentine's Day shooting, the word heart, a heart pulses, Valentine's, riddles. The word Valentine in Sumerian gematria, that's 102 times 6 equals 612. So, 4 things to remember about Stoneman Douglas. There's really even more, but those are 4 important points to take away. In 1859, on this day, Oregon was admitted as the 33rd state. Oregon is the only of 50 states that has an ordinal gematria of 74. 74 and 33. Masonic numbers. Valentine's Day also carries the gematria 74. So, fitting date for admission of the state Oregon. In 1912, on this day, Arizona became the 48th state. Valentine and Arizona have a gematria overlap. Call it a coincidence. What I find funny is how the 3 states I've lived in my lifetime are Oregon, Arizona, and Washington. And, born in Oregon, went to college in Arizona. In 1929, on this date, there was the St. Valentine's Day Massacre in Chicago. Illinois has the gematria of 45 to go with the 45th day of the year. In light of this event coming 89 years before the shooting last year at Stoneman Douglas, the word chaos has that gematria of 89. The word massacre, the St. Valentine's Day massacre has that gematria of 43, which is the 14th prime number, shooting on the 14th of the month. February 14th, 29, 2 plus 14 plus 29. It was also a date with 45 numerology, in addition to being the 45th day of the year. There's this relationship with the words 45 and 54. When you write them out as words, they have perfect overlap in all 4 base ciphers. The vote for William Barr today to become Attorney General, the vote was 54 to 45. But very interesting how the gematria stacks for these 2 words. I bring that up because Capone has the gematria of 54 as well. Capone was blamed for the massacre on Valentine's Day. His full name, Alphonse Gabriel Capone, has gematria of 108. Big geometry number. Geometry equals 45 and 108. Bring that up because last year at Stoneman Douglas, again, it was the school named after Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, who lived to be 108 years old. So, Capone's also got that January 17th birthday, 117. Fitting into that 45-54 thing. Getting the big shooting on the 45th day of the year. Capone was 30 years old at the time, Mafia 30. For the record, Mafia is also 47 in Jewish Gematria, and Capone would die in 1947. You ever seen the movie King of New York, where Christopher Walken's the big gangster? They show his birthday on the screen, and his birthday is April 7th. On this day in history, 1949, Israel's Knesset convened for the first time. Knesset has the gematria of 39 and 93. And again, Valentine's 39. Let me go out to Arizona. Speaking of 39, how are you?
Oh, you're doing a live feed right now.
Oh, you didn't know that, huh?
No, I didn't, brother. I apologize, man. I had something funny I was going to tell you, but I'll call you later.
Oh, go ahead. It's all right, man.
Oh, what's going on right now? You just doing a YouTube thing, or?
I'm doing the podcast, but ahead of schedule today.
Oh, okay. So do you remember that story when I called TFR up? That story that the guy told me, it was a customer that we befriended each other kind of. He was giving me some books to read, and we were talking about things. I'm thinking, well, maybe I'll learn something through this guy being a military, ex-military. Now he's younger than me. I'm guessing he's maybe we're around the same age. He's in his 40s, but something obviously happened to this guy, right? He had served several, in the Middle East, several, what do they call them when they go over there?
Tours,
yes. So, and he was part of something that had to do with, I don't know if it was special ops, but intelligence part, I think. But anyways, he's obviously damaged goods. Because when I got to the part about 9/11, he just wouldn't answer my question. And then finally, we were just kind of getting irritated with each other one day. I was just at his doorstep, and he was like, and I was like, man, you never answered my question about 9/11. And he's like, oh, yeah, it happened. And then he goes on to tell me the story that he pulled this burning dead child out of Flight 77. Do you remember that?
That story being in the media?
No, yeah. Well, he told me that he lived at that time. He lived near the Pentagon.
Oh, right.
And, which he may have. And they got the call, and when he got there, this child was dead. He pulled this dead child out of the wreckage.
I remember you sharing this. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, you're basically told me it was full of shit, and and he was like, puts his hand out. I wouldn't shake his hand. I was just irritated at that point. And I'm like, man, you're brainwashed. And then he just closed his door. That was back in the summer. Then he called. He actually went into the post office. He tried to get me in trouble, and they just kind of laughed it off. And they're like, just stop all communication with him. I'm like, yeah, I already have. Well, today, dude, I go to the box. I pull up to the box, and he's got like a little gray box. And when I open it, he's got a freaking sticker, man, right on the inside of it that says, remember 9/11.
Huh.
What a piece of trash. And I'm not gonna get upset over it, but it obviously still bothers him, and that's good. Because I called him out on his BS. And
right.
He didn't like that because I said, you're brainwashed, man, to believe that story. And then come and tell me this, and then tell me your hand was injured. There ain't nothing wrong with his hand. He's holding his hand out. His hand looked perfectly fine. It's his brain that's messed up.
Right. So he left that for you like as a Valentine's, huh?
Dude, it had to have been last night because it's something that I don't think I missed. It's right there, right when I open it. It's up far enough. Yeah, it's up far enough that I can see it. Because this box is kind of low, but it's right there to when I open it. He wanted me to see it, obviously, and I think he did it, probably last night or after he got his mail yesterday. He put it on there.
You know what's funny is you called right after how I just talked about in this live stream how Arizona was established on Valentine's Day.
No way, I didn't know that.
Yeah, just like Oregon.
Huh. What year?
1948.
48, huh? Interesting.
Wait. No. I gave you the wrong date. 1912. Excuse me. 1912.
1912. And it was established on Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to look up on some of your stuff on Valentine's Day. I just haven't had much time. I'm sure you did something on your blog, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, we've covered it in years past too. So
that was it, man. I had to call you. I'm like, dude, I can't. Oh man, I don't know, because obviously I sparked something there. I mean, why? Dude, that was like, I haven't said one word to him. Sometimes I'll see him with his dog, up by the wash somewhere, and I just kind of smile and shake my head at him like, yeah, man, you're brainwashed, And
right.
it still bothered him, obviously, because why would he put that in there? Like, that was over the summer. That was several months ago.
Right. Well, yeah, you planted a seed. It's been sticking there, so.
Yep. All right, guy.
All right, man. Appreciate the story. You have a good day.
Hey, talk to you guys later. Bye.
All right, take care. That's funny. So yeah, he's a mailman, so I guess that was the war veteran's way of letting him know he hadn't forgotten what they talked about this summer. All right, so we were saying Knesset, Israel's Congress, the Zionist nation, they convene for the first time on Valentine's. And it also makes me think about the Old Testament and the 39 books. Valentine's Day sums to 74, like we just covered, same as Jewish as well, the Jewish nation. In 1979, on this date, Adolf Dubs, the U.S. ambassador to Afghanistan, was kidnapped in Kabul by Muslim extremists and killed in a shootout between his abductors and police. Afghanistan has the Gematria of 197, the 45th prime number, news on the 45th day of the year. The other thing that stands out is this man's name, Adolf Dubs. Look at the overlap with Valentine in 3 of the 4 ciphers. And this was big news on Valentine's Day at the time. And again, all throughout history, these news stories by the numbers. Adolf was born on August 4th. He became the ambassador on May 13th in the year 78. From the day that he became ambassador to his supposed death was 277 days later. That's the 59th prime number in Jewish Gematria. Kill equals 59. Notice it was also 39 weeks and days, fitting in with that Valentine riddle. In 2013, on this day, it was the supposed murder of the model Riva Steenkamp by the athlete Oscar Pistorius. This happened shortly after I began practicing this work. And actually, I hadn't even quite started this work, but it was still a big story when I started. So I took a stab at this. I didn't know reverse gematria, but I just want you to see how well all of this lines up. So from Oscar Pistorius's birth, his last birthday before her death, to the incident was 84 days later, or 2 months and 23 days. 84 and 223. And her first name, Riva, has Gematria of 84. Riva Steenkamp is also 223. And her full name, Riva Rebecca Steenkamp, also 84. So she died 84 days after Oscar Pistorius' birthday on Valentine's Day, a day for lovers, and they're a couple. I did not know reverse gematria then, so I could not see this part about 84 and 223. But what did stand out before was the full name 84. And of course, we know the greater significance of these numbers. Masonry equals 84, and Jewish gematria and Masonics 223. It makes you wonder, what really happened here? On my idea yesterday about traveling to prisons and visiting these people that are part of these stories and seeing if you can get any information, I think that's something I got to accomplish in the future. If it's even possible to talk to these people. Oscar Pistorius, his name carries the gematria of 67 like killer. We were just talking about the significance of this number days ago in light of the new TV show, The ABC Murders, which begin on a date with 67 numerology on March 31st, 1933. And 331 like March 31st. 331 is also the 67th prime. If you missed that video, check it out. In 2017, on this date, a former store clerk was convicted in New York of murder in one of the nation's most haunting missing child cases, nearly 38 years after 6-year-old Eaton Potts disappeared while on the way to a school bus stop. So the mention of 38 years, as we know, murder, death, killing, RIP, they all sum to 38. The story came on the 45th day of the year. It was blamed on a store clerk, 45. It was a New York related story, New York and Valentine, both 39. The child was on the way to the school bus stop, summing to 167, the 39th prime number. And then the child's name, Eaton Potts, Gematria of 113. 113. We were just looking at the story the other day out of the UK. James Bulger, another 113. Another very numerology-oriented story. Ten years ago on this day, death of a musician, Louis Bellson, 2009. From his last birthday to his death was 223 days later. Familiar numbers. 223. He died at age 84, this man. 84. Didn't we just talk about this in another? Well, this is a death story, but this one here is supposedly a murder story. But the same thing, 223 and 84. This man was 84 years old, dead 223 days after his birthday. And his name, Louis Bellson, Gematria of 141 and 51, like Valentine. Go figure. 5 years ago on this date, 2014, the death of a Major League Baseball player in Miami. His name, James Fregosi, Gematria of 197, the 45th prime. Dead in Miami, Miami 45. He played Major League Baseball, Major League 45. Remember what's special about that number? It's the 9th triangular number. When you add 1 through 9, it equals 45. Baseball, a game of 9 innings. From his last birthday, April 4th, to his death was 45 weeks and 1 day as well. His full name, James Louis Fregosi, Gematria of 103, the 27th prime. Dead in Miami, Miami 27, MLB 27, 27 outs per team in a complete baseball game. And 1 year ago today, Stormy Daniels' manager said the porn star now believes she was free to discuss what she said was a sexual encounter with Donald Trump. I remember covering this a year ago, and I'm thinking, man, it's already been a year. But the 45th day of the year, Donald Trump number 45, the word porn 45, the whole Stormy Daniels thing, the whole Donald Trump thing, all by the numbers. And we'll build on that here with his national emergency. It's about to be declared. Last year on this day as well, Jacob Zuma, former president of South Africa, he stepped down on this day. He was the fourth president, and he resigned exactly 44 weeks. 44 weeks after his birthday as the fourth president. And couldn't help but notice that his birthday is April 12th, the 102nd day of the year. It's a number that's relevant to Black history, especially here in the United States. His name is also perfect for the presidency, Jacob Zuma. I'll just show you this real quick. Zuma has the 47, like president. And Jacob Zuma has the Gematria 52, also like president. 47, 52. So that was that day in history. Let's fast forward to today, February 14th, 2019. Donald Trump comes out and he says that he is going to declare a national emergency to get the funds for the wall. And he's going to use the recent murders and news headlines of illegal immigrants as the justification. So again, today's the 45th day of the year. Donald Trump's number 45. He was announced as the 45th president-elect on the anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall 45. The other thing about today is today has 35 numerology and border equals 35. We saw how the from the migrant caravan crisis that became front and center in the news, from the day that broke until the day they reached the Tijuana border, it was 35 days later, the way those news stories were presented. So we'll see how this goes. It's obviously going to be, a big fight in the Congress. The Democrats have already come out and said if they do it, they're going to block it. So one more distraction. So many pressing problems in this world that will not be addressed in the whole time of this border wall distraction. Anyhow, also today, William Barr confirmed as Attorney General. And William Barr, he's known as Bill Barr. Bill Barr equals 142. Today's February 14th, 14/2. Just like how Parkland, Florida equals 142. That was last year. Bill Barr also has Gematria of 74, like Valentine's Day. So the vote for him was 54-45 on the 45th day of the year to serve as the attorney for the 45th president. The confirmation hearing was January 15th, 2019. He was officially confirmed today, February 14th. Both dates with 55 numerology. William Barr has the Gematria 55. From today to his upcoming birthday is 98 days. Attorney equals 98. It's also a span of 99 days, which matters because his birthday is May 23rd, 523, kind of like 523, the 99th prime number. This is a big riddle with the NFL. Talked about this with the Patriots and the Rams before the season even began. The Rams star player born on May 23rd ended his holdout 99 days from his birthday before the 99th NFL season. The Patriots came into the season with 523 franchise wins. So familiar numbers. With regards to the span of 99 days, today is also 99 days after Jeff Sessions resigned or was fired. At first, remember, it was reported that Jeff Sessions resigned, then they said he was fired. Anyway, 99. It gets its significance through the United States of America, which has Gematria of 99. Again, the United States of America was named on September 9th, 99. When you write out 13 as a word, it equals 99 and 117. It also equals 45, and here we are on the 45th day of the year. I noticed that, November 7th, the day that Jeff Sessions went down, that date can be written 11/7 like 117. So big connection to 13 here with this ritual. Again, when you write out 13, sums to 99, 45, and 117. And all these numbers come into play now. Looking at Jeff Sessions, his end is the Attorney General, and now the next man filling in. 13. You know how Masonry likes that number. So I think those were the main points. Make sure there wasn't anything else pressing. He is 68 years old. Bill Barr at the time of this appointment, big number with Trump. Donald John Trump, The Apprentice, Donald J. Trump, all 68. His at his hearing, abortion and Roe versus Wade was a big focus. That was on Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, January 15th. But those were the main points. Okay, so Amazon officially cancels their plan for New York. Today is exactly 33 days after Jeff Bezos' birthday, and that matters because New York has Gematria of 39 and 33. It was just last week, February 8th, the 39th day of the year, that Amazon said they were reconsidering moving to New York. Remember all the 39 headlines that day. Again, Valentine's also 39. But this looks like one more example of New York news by the numbers. And in all likelihood, Amazon probably never really had any intentions to go into New York City. They're still going to be expanding to Nashville and Virginia. Let's see, we got a call here. Caller?
Oh, Zach, are you online? You live?
Yeah, I'm live right now.
I'm sorry, I'll call back.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. But they're still expanding to Nashville. Nashville also has the Gematria 39. Nashville was big on the news on the 39th day of the year as well. That was the death of the musician. And they're also expanding to Virginia. And that seems like a fitting spot for Amazon to expand to because they do a lot of work for the federal government. They're all sorts of technology to help build the police state. They have the cutting edge face recognition technology Amazon does. So notice it's also 4 weeks and 5 days from Bezos' birthday. It might be in the 45th day of the year. So that was that. So more racial shaming in Black History Month. Today it's the 42-minute video. This comes from Michael Avenatti, who earlier this year was accused of domestic violence by the numbers. We covered that some months ago. That was in 2018, but less than a year ago. What was really standing out, though, is this news comes on February 14th, Valentine's Day, Lover's Day, the 14th. Accusations of a videotape that show he was having sex with a 14-year-old girl. And again, that reminds of Aaliyah. Supposedly him and Aaliyah got together when he was in his mid-20s and she was 14. This story also comes out of Illinois. I believe that's R. Kelly's home state, but Illinois 45. It's the 45th day of the year. And here's where it's at right here. What's on the tape? The newly unearthed footage, which lasts 42 minutes and 45 seconds, well, we know why we get the 45 seconds on the 45th day, is clear and explicit. There are two scenes on the video, one apparently in a living room and another in a bedroom. A naked man who appears to be R. Kelly is seen performing multiple sex acts with the girl. She is heard calling him daddy multiple times. It is impossible to know her age just from the video. They both refer to her 14-year-old pussy. 6 times the girl refers to her genitalia as 14 years old. At one point, the man asks the girl to urinate. After she does, he urinates on her. What is on the video mirrors some of the alleged acts for which Kelly was arrested for child pornography in 2002 when he was 35 and then acquitted 6 years later. So remember, today has 35 date numerology too. Don't forget Svengali, that word for the evil in the industry equals 35 as well. But of course, 42 minutes and 45 seconds. One more example from this month of black shaming in the number 42. Last month on January 14th, headlines emerged about R. Kelly and Aaliyah at 14, of course, on the 14th. And Aaliyah is a name that also carries the Gematria 42. Of course, Aaliyah died by the numbers. Her book covered in my death. What I just spoke completely backwards. Her death covered in my book, excuse me. But that might also be part of the reason that, you know, they're talking about a 14-year-old girl and 42 minutes. So, familiar numbers for R. Kelly. And yeah, it just never ends. I mean, the whole R. Kelly shaming thing's been going on, yeah, since the early 2000s. I mean, it's almost 20 years of this now, so. Also today, University of Washington here in the 42nd state. The university put out a new study saying that Roundup, the weed killer, it boosts your cancer risk by 41%. And it's kind of vague. It's like, well, what if you use it on your own yard, if you touch it? So it's not clear. Personally, I've never used weed killer. I've always taken the time to pull weeds, and I actually don't mind weeding. I think if I wasn't doing this right now, I'd just go start my own landscaping business. I like being outside, maintaining things. But anyhow, February 14th, 14/2, the name of the chemical that causes the cancer is glyphosate, however you pronounce it, 142. Going perfectly with today, 14/2. When you write out 42, it equals 142. This study comes out of Washington, the 42nd state, and this is Monsanto's product. And it's the product that really made Monsanto. So, news by the numbers never fails. Jimmy Uso, WWE star, arrested. The news comes today, Valentine's Day. I noticed right away that Jimmy Uso equals 35. Today has the 35 date numerology. WrestleMania 35 is coming up. Today's date also has 55 numerology, Uso 55. Wrestling has the Gematria 53, the reflection of 35, and from the news to WrestleMania 35 is a span of 53 days. So, ultimately, what this does is it just brings more attention to the athletes in the sport. And I don't follow the WWE at all, so I don't know how big of a star he is, and I don't know if he's going to be in WrestleMania, but perhaps he is, and this will be part of the narrative. So I'll leave that up to the wrestling fans. CNN today had an exclusive story about how there have been 31 shootings at K through 12 schools since last year on this day at Stoneman Douglas. 31 new shootings at high schools. They say that breaks down to one every 12 days. Every 12 days about. Remember, shooting has the Gematria 37. When you flip the alphabetic order around, that's the 12th prime. So it's probably where they came up with this number. 37, the 12th prime. Again, last year, Parkland, Florida, 142 on 14/2. They actually reported that it averaged out to a shooting every 11.8 days, which, of course, rounds up to 12. But there's that number 118 again. Of course, death equals 118 in Jewish Gematria. Notice they said 19 people were killed in these shootings. Chaos, 19. Order out of chaos. 44 were injured. The number that we're so used to with shootings. They said for their statistics, the shooting had to involve these things. Shootings must involve at least one person being shot, not including the shooter. Shooting must occur on school property, which includes, but is not limited to, buildings, fields, parking lots, stadiums, and buses. They included gang violence, fights, and domestic violence, but our count is not limited to those categories. We included the accidental discharge of a firearm as long as the first two parameters are met, except when the sole shooter is a law enforcement or security officer. I want to come back up to the map again where the shootings are at. If you listen to last night's TFR episode, a woman called in and she said she's been doing, I'm waiting for her to send me her research. She said she's been really going through these shootings very carefully. And she said that over 90% of them are closely connected to the Democratic Party. And what I pointed out to her, I said, "Huh, that's interesting." I said, I suppose, when you hear about politicians talking about taking measures to, you know, curb who can have guns, it typically is Democrats. But as she was saying that, I was thinking, I didn't say it out loud. I was thinking, I was like, I'm pretty sure the majority of these shootings are in the South and the Southeast, which are pretty heavy red territory. And I mean, they are. So, I mean, these aren't Democratic states. But again, I would just keep the whole partisan thing out of it. Yeah, the Democrats might be the ones who go front and center and before the media and call for the changes, but look at where the shootings are happening. These aren't Democratic states. It's like the shootings are happening in red states, and then you got the blue politicians coming out and advocating for the change. It's just, to me, it proves the point that I was saying. The two parties, their rhetoric's different, but they work towards the same common purpose, and that is to enslave and exploit all of us. They don't represent us. So, I mean, nobody could ever say that the location of these shootings here are in blue territory. So this happened yesterday, and they're making a big deal about it today. The wife of White House Communications Chief Bill Shine said Wednesday that childhood diseases such as measles keep you healthy and fight cancer. And, everyone's been having a field day with this. It's being used as one more reason that people need to get educated about how important vaccines are. But this happened yesterday, February 13th, the 44th day of the year. And this woman was talking about the measles, mumps, and rubella shot. She was saying in her day, they didn't have this. People just got it. They got over it. And, they went on with their life. And she's saying, now you have all these children getting all these vaccines, including for measles, mumps, and rubella. And look, there's more sickness in childhood populations. And it's absolutely true. So, I mean, I don't know that getting the measles naturally and overcoming it helps you survive cancer down the road. But really, again, people need to just think about the fact that, yeah, these generations that came, decades ago, they weren't dying from SIDS, and they weren't allergic to peanuts, and they didn't have autism at the rates we do, and all the things we see today. And whenever you hear the news talk about this stuff, they just go, oh, that's crazy. Oh, that conspiracy theory. Oh, there's no evidence of that. But they don't talk about the fact that, yeah, there is something going on in child populations that wasn't happening generations ago. And that's the way I took her remarks. She's saying, look, we used to just go live with these things. This was part of life. We got through it. And we didn't die at the rates young people do today. So, too bad you can't go out in public and make these points without getting, the third degree, because the majority of people are programmed and they sound just like the talking heads on the television. No critical thought, all programming. That's what I see overwhelmingly in the populace. I also noticed that from her birthday to her making these news headlines was 113 days later. Mainstream 113. It's like, was she put up to making these remarks just so that they could do this? How interesting it happened 113 days after her birthday on the 44th day of the year, where again, MMR and cancer are 44, the two key points she was talking about. So, Lyndon LaRouche died. Man who ran for president many a times. He died at age 96, and he died on February 12th. And I'll show you what's so interesting about this. He died on the 43rd day of the year, LaRouche 43, Masonic also 43. And from the year that he first ran for president, 76, 43 years later, dead. The name LaRouche also has gematria of 133. Just talked about this week with Elizabeth Warren. President equals 133, White House 133, government 133. Elizabeth Warren announced that she was running for president 133 days from her birthday. So LaRouche, he had a perfect name for it. And from his birthday to his death was his 158th day of his age. And he died at age 96, Freemasonry 158, Freemason 96. So see a lot of things pointing to Masonry. Of course, Masonry has big influence in the political world. And while LaRouche never won, he had a massive following. Even in Seattle, there were LaRouche people everywhere. I remember for years and years after Obama became president, there would be LaRouche people, even on the streets of Seattle, holding up this picture right here. And it would always say different things. It wasn't always invoke the 25th Amendment. Again, that's to remove the president. But the Obama Hitler stash photos with LaRouche, they were everywhere and for a long time. So whatever LaRouche was, I mean, there was a lot of funding behind him. Dubbed a conspiracy theorist. So, I don't know. I imagine he was controlled opposition. His full name has that special value of 119 too. Last night, somebody called in and asked if I'd seen the Tom Brady story about his wife being a good witch, and went back and looked. These headlines began on February 7th, so 4 days after the Super Bowl. And February 7th can be written 2/7 or 7/2. Remember, witch and broom have perfect overlap in 3 of the 4, or excuse me, in all 4 base ciphers. Witch and broom, perfect overlap in all 4. And with regards to the 27 and 72, they correspond with the date, February 7th, 2/7, 7/2. Now, the caller last night, I just let him speak his mind, but he was essentially saying there's no such thing as a good witch. When I lived at my old house and everybody had my address, I was getting all sorts of letters in the mail. And somebody who was mailing me probably at a rate of about once a month. And they would send their letters in nice cards and use nice paper and use nice handwriting. They'd write it by hand. And they'd write these messages about how they were a good witch. And every time I'd open their card, they would say that this new spell that they cast was going to help protect me from these other people harassing me. And I never got the idea through any of these cards that this person was trying to hurt me or being sinister. I felt that they were just someone out there who genuinely cared about me. And they thought that by casting these good spells to protect me, that they were doing something positive. And for all I know, they were. So if you go back and study witchcraft, not all witches throughout history have been bad. The whole thing with witches and brooms, what it goes back to is the days of agriculture. The old festival is the witches in the town. They would get together and they would take their brooms or their tools that they used out in the garden, and they'd put it between their legs, and they'd make a big circle around the area, and it was sort of like a blessing or a positive spell, so that the food would be plentiful, the harvest would be plentiful. And the problem is that we live in this world where everyone has all these different competing beliefs, and people with Christian backgrounds, they've been taught from a young age that magic and witchcraft is the devil's work and Satan's work. And, so it just all gets put in the evil category. And I'm someone who doesn't claim to know. I don't know. I just look and look at everything that's out there, and I say, okay, here's somebody that tells me they're a good witch. They have the power to cast positive spells to protect people or to make the plants grow. And I say, okay, well, that's interesting. I don't know anything about that. I don't know how to cast magical spells and help people but I stay open-minded to it. And I don't just go, oh, well, I was raised Lutheran and I learned that's evil, so you're an evil person. I just think really we need to be more tolerant of all different beliefs. And, So I just wanted to make that point. I didn't make that point on the radio show last night. I respect the caller who called in and voiced his opinion, and I didn't really want to argue with him about it. I just figured today when I talk about it, I'll say what I want to say. And that said, coming back to Giselle being a good witch and this story being about how she builds altars and stuff to help him win his football games, I mean, we know what's really going on with Tom Brady. He's been winning rigged Super Bowls by the numbers since before he was even married to Giselle. And what's interesting is the day he got married to Giselle was the 57th day of the year, February 26th. And it was also a date with 57 numerology. And look at the name Giselle, 57. And what do we know about 57? That's the big Super Bowl number. When you write out 57, when you write out championship, when you write out Super Bowl, it sums to 131. This year on January 31st, Sam Adams put out the new beer can with Tom Brady as the GOAT, for greatest of all time. The Patriots just won the Super Bowl in their 57th playoff game as a franchise. Hosted by the Falcons, the Patriots won their last Super Bowl over the Falcons in their 57th season. Number that comes up year after year. So I'm not going to defend Giselle, but I will say that I'm aware that there's some people out there who claim to be good witches who seem to be genuinely good people. So I'm not going to throw all witches under the bus. All right, now for a little bit of review. Yesterday, the 44th day of the year, we got big space news. The Mars Opportunity rover is dead. And of course, in yesterday's podcast, I finished that, and then this was the story as soon as I was done. This headline emerged right after. Of course, yesterday we talked about the theme with death yesterday. So here NASA puts out the word dead to describe what's happened to the Mars rover. But again, it comes on the 44th day of the year. Yesterday had the 54 date numerology. The name of the rover is Opportunity 54. If you call it Mars Opportunity, which also seems to be a name, has Gematria of 84. The divisors of 44 sum to 84, the 44th day of the year. They said that the mission lasted 15 years, Mars 15. It came to a conclusion on a date with, they said that they sent out a call to the rover on February 12th. They didn't get any response back, so they declared it dead the next day. So the day that they sent out the final call, date with 33 numerology, rover, masonry, federal, secrecy, order, they all sum to 33. If you write out the number 90 as a word, it sums to 33 in this cipher as well. I bring up that point because they said that the rover was only supposed to last for 90 days, and instead it went on to last all this time. And I suppose that's, good publicity for NASA. You give us $50-some million a day, and we build things that last way longer than they're supposed to. And actually, you guys, I just underestimate that value. We give NASA almost $60 million a day. Really, if you look up the NASA budget, how much money they get a year, and you divide it by 365, you'll see it's nearly $60 million every single day. It's amazing. Amazing. I'm sure not everything NASA does is junk. I mean, our nation has a lot of sophisticated technology, especially in flight, and that's what NASA specializes in. But look at all the stuff that they give us in the media. It's obvious it's like bunk propaganda, made up garbage. Anyhow, from the date that this mission began, July 7th, 2003, to the day it officially ended was 5,700 days later. Mars 57, outer space 57, conspiracy 57, Scottish Rite 57. Again, the Scottish Rite House of the Temple has the shrine to NASA. They said the last official contact was June 10th, 2018. So you got to wait a minute. So they haven't contacted it for all that time, but then they just end it these days later. I just noticed that from June 10th to the day it officially ended was 8 months and 4 days, kind of like 84. And it was also 35 weeks and days, where NASA's big number is 35. And I got to figure out this astrology piece, but I noticed that Mars conjunct Uranus yesterday. And isn't that just the funniest name for a planet? Uranus. So seems like that's where this story came from, NASA's. But no doubt more space news by the numbers. Last night, another story emerged. The Tallahassee hot yoga shooting of November 2nd, 2018, the one where they put Goy up in the window. From that day to the 911 tapes being released yesterday was 103 days. And of course, Tallahassee's 103. And then it was also the 44th day of the year, shooting 44. Shooting in Frank Baconis is also 213, like February 13th. So you get an update in the shooting news on this day. And I've noticed this has been the ritual lately. We're not getting, it seems that they've really cooled down on reporting the mass shootings. But on the days that we typically see the mass shootings by the numbers, like the 44th day of the year, we keep seeing, news about prior shootings come up on those days. We've now covered that a number of times in recent months. The shootings have really cooled off since the synagogue shooting, where they said the shooter got 44 federal charges. Also in Florida, there was another shooting-related story, a rapper arrested for a shooting by the numbers. I put out a video on this last night, in case you missed it. His two friends were killed October 26, 2018, and now he's been charged with the murder of those two on the 44th day of the year, and he turned himself in. This rapper's birth name is really interesting, Jamel Maurice Demons. From the killing of the two men October 26th to Demon's upcoming 20th birthday is 187 days, 187 the homicide code. In Satanic Gematria times 187, it's 187 days to his 20th birthday. Remember, a lowercase t is like a cross, and a t is the 20th letter. With the alphabetic order and rules of numerology, time, seasons, cross, death, they all equal 20. The cross is symbolic of time, the seasons, and death. So 187 days to his 20th birthday. The day these men were killed, October 26, 2018, was a date with 74 numerology as well. Cross, killing, occult, Masonic, rapper, they're all 74. The rapper's name, Jamel Maurice Demons, 193, the 44th prime. On the 44th day, charged with the shooting. Again, shooting 44-213. And this is the same day in history that Tupac released his last album while alive, All Eyes on Me, February 13th. He would die September 13th, 213 days later, from complications of a shooting or a drive-by shooting, where that phrase, drive-by shooting, equals 213. And again, Tupac's mother was a Black Panther, released his album on 213 in Black History Month, 213. Tupac dead on 13/9, September 13th. Tupac Shakur and Freemasonry, 139. And the album released after Tupac's death was Him on the Cross. And Tupac and Machiavelli, 74. It's his rap alias name. Also, the death of these two young men. On the day leaving 66 days left in the year, Jamel Demons carries that Gematria 66. So, again, murder by numbers, the way to the top of your profession. And for one last point, caller last night gave me some new vocabulary. Psionim, never heard this before. Psionim are Jews who live in and often hold the citizenship of lands outside of Israel, but who are recruited clandestinely by the Mossad to assist with its operations. As clandestine operations, claims regarding the Psionim tend to be speculative and uncertain. Again, they're a secretive organization. Agents differ from assets in Psionim. Agents possess the requisite mental state to be convicted of treason, a capital crime. Psionim are shielded from conventional legal culpability by being told only enough to perform their narrow role. In other words, a Psion can operate as an accomplice but still not be legally liable due to lack of the requisite intent regarding the broader goals, of which they are purposefully kept ignorant. So it sounds like a pretty dishonest position to have. Can't remember. Oh, what's it say about the synagogue of Satan? Oh, those who lie. So those who have to do with dishonesty. Anyhow, look at this word Sionim. Look at the gematria. In the most pure cipher, it's a perfect overlap with Israel and Zion, but it also carries the value of 44 like Israel and Zion. And remember, the founder of Zionism, Theodore Herzl, dropped dead at age 44. And he died 44 years before the establishment of the Zionist state of Israel, whose leader right now is Netanyahu, another 44. Theodore Herzl also sums to 73, like sacrifice and ritual sacrifice. And notice he died in history on July 3rd. So, thought that was interesting. Learned something new. And thanks for those of you who made it here live. I know I didn't announce that I was going to do this early, but it is Valentine's, and I just had this thought. I thought, if I do it tonight, most people are probably going to be busy. So get it done early, and also that allows me to take my sweet lady out tonight. She did make it clear that she would like to go out for Valentine's dinner. Not always the best day to go out because usually restaurants are busy and servers are overwhelmed, and you don't get the best service, but my lady likes a Valentine's dinner, so got to keep her happy. All right, truth seekers, you guys have a great rest of your day. Appreciate all of you, and be back tomorrow at the regular time. Till next time.